Hi, my name is Allison Mills. I'm the author of The Ghost Collector, and I'm going to read a passage from it for you. Grandma doesn't get rid of every ghost she comes across. She says sometimes ghosts deserve to do their haunting, and sometimes people deserve to be haunted. You don't take ghosts from a graveyard, Grandma says, braiding Shelly's hair so she doesn't catch any ghosts she doesn't want. Not unless they want to go, and then you can let them out. Most of those ghosts will leave if they really want to, anyway. Same with sacred places, churches, and temples. Any ghosts doing their haunting there deserve to stay. Shelly rolls her eyes. I know, she says. Sometimes it's the living who make trouble for the dead. Grandma snorts, tugging playfully at the end of Shelly's braid. It's good to know you've been listening. One of the first places Grandma took Shelly for ghost lessons was a graveyard. An old one where nobody had been buried for years. It was tucked in a small lot between a strip mall and a block of townhouses and kept tidy by the city. There was a ghost there, a faint shade of a person slowly transitioning from ghost to gone. Not everyone can see the dead, Grandma said, pointing to the blurry shape propped up against the chain-link fence. We can, and that means we've got responsibilities. Shelly was 6 and so excited about seeing the ghost she could hardly sleep. Mom decided that meant she was scared, but she wasn't. Even then, she liked the dead. The graveyard Grandma takes Shelly to this time is a 27-minute bus ride away. It's a modern one, big with tidy rows of tasteful headstones and brass plaques set in the ground. Shelly keeps to the path so she doesn't walk on anybody's grave. This kind of graveyard, you aren't going to find a lot of ghosts, Grandma says, leading Shelly towards the outer limits of the graveyard to the cheaper graves. Lots of old ladies like me with nothing left to haunt about. On the outskirts of the graveyard are small graves with tiny aluminum stakes and rusted old plaques instead of proper headstones. They're the cheap seats of burial place, for people who can't afford or aren't willing to pay for a big headstone when they get buried. The graves are closer together and weeds sprout out between them. There's a ghost there, a teenage boy sitting on a small grave, playing with a black plastic box that looks almost like a radio. He looks up at Grandma and Shelly with eyes like black holes. Hello, Joseph, Grandma says, sticking a hand in her purse and pulling out a stack of old cassette tapes. Shelly's mom has a tape deck in her car, but these days tapes are all old music and hard to find. Grandma puts them on the grave in front of the boy, and he smiles at her. Old lady, he says. His mouth moves, but his voice comes from the headphones around his neck. He pops open his ghostly radio-like box and inserts the tapes, one by one, right after each other. They disappear as they slide into place, dissolving into the player. Ghosts don't usually come with accessories. Joseph having the player and headphones means he was buried with them. You want to know who's roaming the yard? First, I want to introduce you to my granddaughter, Grandma says. Joseph, this is Shelly. Joseph turns his unsettling eyes on Shelly. She does her best not to take a step back. After a moment, she bows to him, just a quick up and down bob, because she's not sure what else to do when he's staring like that. Joseph laughs. I like her, he says. Old lady never introduced me to anyone before, little Shell. You must be special. You ever heard of the cure? Shelly shakes her head. Joseph opens his box again and reaches inside. His hand slips down, all the way to his elbow as he digs around inside and pulls out a cassette and holds it out to Shelly. They're my favorite band. This is a good tape, he says. My favorite album. Take care of it for me. Shelly takes the tape. The faded lettering on it reads, Disintegration. It's so icy cold that touching it feels like being burned, but Grandma taught her how to accept gifts from the dead. When they give you something, you have to be grateful. You smile, say thank you, and take good care of it. Thank you, Shelly says. Do you want me to bring it back? Nah, Joseph says. You keep that one for you. I got it memorized. Old lady here brings me new stuff to listen to all the time. Shelly slips the tape into her pocket. Joseph isn't as old as most of the ghosts she's met. She wonders about that, but another thing about ghosts is that it's rude to ask how they died. Most of the time, Shelly and Grandma don't even ask ghosts why they're still hanging around when they meet them. Most of the time, ghosts don't even know they're ghosts. Joseph does. He sits on his grave and hums as music starts playing from his headphones. It sounds angry to Shelly, angry and sad. Joseph smiles like he likes it. What is that? Shelly asks, pointing to the box. It plays tapes? It's a tape deck, Joseph says, his voice filled with pride, echoing between the notes of the song. It's top of the line, the best portable tape deck money can buy. Always wanted one of these when I was alive. This tape was a good choice, old lady. You got depths. Grandma laughs and takes a seat across from Joseph. She pats the grass beside her for Shelly to sit too. I like to think so. You said something about people roaming? Joseph makes a face. Always business, he says. Yeah, we got some new ghosts. John Francis German over on the north side is confused. Doesn't want to talk much. Estelle KJ Park called me a punk kid and told me to get off her lawn. Shelly can't help but the laugh that bubbles out of her. Joseph turns to her, smiling. Little Shell gets me. Old lady never laughs at my jokes. I'll laugh at your jokes when you get funnier, Grandma says. Thank you for watching. The Ghost Collector is out September 10th.